The night shift at Earth's Deep Space Monitoring Station was usually quiet. Most operators spent their time watching endless streams of data, looking for any unusual patterns among the stars. But tonight was different. Tom Miller had been working at the station for 15 years, and he had never seen anything like the signal that now flashed across his screen. At first, he thought it was a glitch, a random spike in the background noise that usually filled the vast emptiness of space. But the pattern repeated itself, again and again, too regular to be natural. "Hey, Robert," Tom called out to his supervisor, trying to keep his voice steady. "You might want to take a look at this." Robert Walker had been about to leave for the night, his coffee cup already empty and his jacket halfway on. He walked over to Tom's station, expecting another false alarm. But as soon as he saw the screen, the coffee cup slipped from his fingers and crashed to the floor. The signal was coming from just beyond the Kuiper Belt, the region of space that marked the edge of our solar system. It pulsed with a rhythm that could only be artificial, carrying complex data patterns that no known natural phenomenon could create. Within hours, the station was buzzing with activity. Scientists from every department crowded around monitors, running analyses and arguing about the signal's meaning. The military sent their top cryptographers, and even the UN had representatives flying in from around the world. Commander James Wilson of the International Space Command arrived just before dawn. He was a tall man with gray hair and eyes that had seen humanity's first steps into space. As he walked into the control room, the chaos seemed to quiet itself. "Show me everything," he ordered, and the team quickly compiled their findings. The breakthrough came 36 hours later. A young programmer named Rachel had noticed something familiar in the signal structure. It used mathematical constants that were universal. Pi, the speed of light, the gravitational constant. These numbers appeared in specific sequences that could only be intentional. "It's a language primer," she explained to Commander Wilson. "They're teaching us how to understand them." As the translation program worked its magic, the message began to take shape on their screens. What they read stunned everyone in the room into silence. "This is the refugee fleet of the Starborn civilization. Our 300 ships carry the survivors of our world. We are stranded in your solar system. Our propulsion systems have failed due to an unexpected dark matter concentration. We need help. Please respond if you can understand this message." Commander Wilson read the message 3 times before speaking. "How many people are we talking about?" The analysts worked quickly with the data. Based on the power signatures we're detecting, each ship appears to be the size of a small city. We could be looking at millions of refugees. The room fell silent again. Humanity had dreamed of first contact for centuries, but no one had imagined it would happen like this. They weren't dealing with powerful explorers or intimidating conquerors. These were people in need, stranded and asking for help. Commander Wilson picked up the secure phone that connected directly to the UN Security Council. "Mr. Secretary General," he said, his voice firm and clear, "we've decoded the signal, and we need to make a decision that will change human history forever." As the commander explained the situation, Tom looked back at his monitor where the signal continued to pulse steadily. Somewhere out there, an entire civilization waited to know if humanity would answer their call for help. The next 24 hours saw the fastest mobilization of global resources in human history. Every space agency on Earth began preparations. Engineers were called in from retirement. Factories started running extra shifts, and military satellites were repurposed for deep space scanning. Humanity had just been thrust onto the galactic stage, not as conquerors or victims, but as potential saviors. The question wasn't just if they could help, it was if they were ready for what helping might mean. As the sun rose over the monitoring station the next morning, Commander Wilson sent humanity's first response to an alien civilization. "We hear you. We're coming to help. Hold on." The age of humanity's isolation was over. Their first step into a larger universe would be marked not by fear or aggression, but by a simple answer to a call for help. 3 days after Earth sent its response, the skies above Nevada lit up with an otherworldly glow. The advanced scout ship from the starborn fleet had arrived, using the last of its emergency power to reach Earth's orbit. Military jets scrambled into formation around the alien vessel, though they kept their distance as ordered. The ship was roughly the size of an aircraft carrier, its silver hull gleaming in the desert sun. It moved with a grace that seemed impossible for something so large. At Area 51, now serving as humanity's first contact site, Commander Wilson stood with a team of scientists and military personnel. They watched as the massive ship descended, kicking up clouds of dust from the desert floor. Its landing was nearly silent, defying the expectations of everyone present. "Remember," Commander Wilson addressed his team, "we're their only hope right now. Let's show them humanity's best face." The ship's main door opened with a soft hiss, revealing a ramp of shimmering light. 3 figures emerged, walking down this bridge of pure energy. They were tall, perhaps 7 feet in height, with silvery skin that seemed to reflect the desert sunlight. Their movements were smooth and deliberate, almost like dancers. The lead alien raised both hands in what was clearly a universal gesture of peace. It wore what looked like flowing robes made of material that shifted colors with each movement. "We thank you for answering our call." The alien spoke in perfect English, its voice resonating with an almost musical quality. "I am first speaker Ben." Commander Wilson stepped forward. "Welcome to Earth. I'm Commander Wilson. We were surprised you could learn our language so quickly." Ben's face moved in what might have been a smile. "Our translation matrices are quite efficient, though I must admit your English has interesting complexities." The initial meeting lasted for hours. The Starborn explained their situation in detail. Their home star system had become unstable, forcing them to evacuate their entire civilization. They had chosen Earth's solar system after their long-range scans showed humans had achieved space flight capability. But what truly surprised the Starborn was something they hadn't expected. While examining human technology, their scientists became increasingly intrigued. "Your methods are unusual," Ben said, studying the simple wrench one of the engineers had brought. "We would have created complex molecular manipulators for such tasks. Yet this is elegant in its simplicity." Dr. Moore, the lead engineer from NASA, couldn't help but laugh. "Sometimes the simple solutions are the best ones. No power needed, never breaks down, and you can fix almost anything with it." The Starborn delegation shared glances that seemed meaningful. "Perhaps," Ben said slowly, "this is why we were guided here. We had assumed we needed a civilization with technology matching our own. But what we may need is one that thinks differently." Later that day, in a secure conference room, Ben revealed more about their fleet's situation. Their quantum drive systems, while incredibly advanced, had been completely disabled by an unusual dark matter field they'd encountered. Their automated repair systems, designed to handle every conceivable problem, were useless against this unprecedented situation. "Our systems are too specialized," Ben explained. "They can handle incredible complexity, but when faced with something truly unexpected, they stop. We need minds that can think around problems, minds that don't give up when the obvious solution fails." Commander Wilson leaned forward. "That's something humans are very good at. We've been finding ways to survive and adapt since we first walked upright." The meeting concluded with a historic agreement. Earth would help the Starborn fleet, not by trying to understand their quantum technology, but by applying human ingenuity to solve their problems in ways the aliens had never considered. As the scout ship prepared to return to the fleet, Ben turned to Commander Wilson one last time. "We came here thinking we would find primitive allies we could guide. Instead, we may have found teachers." The commander smiled. "Maybe we'll learn from each other. That's usually how the best partnerships work." As the ship lifted off, its silver hull catching the last rays of the setting sun, humanity began preparing for its greatest engineering challenge yet. They had no idea that they were about to show the galaxy why sometimes the simplest solutions were the most brilliant ones. The main conference room at NASA's Johnson Space Center was packed with the brightest minds Earth could gather. Engineers from every space agency sat shoulder to shoulder, watching as the starborn representatives displayed their ship schematics in stunning 3D holograms. The quantum drives that powered their ships hung in the air like ghostly blueprints, their complexity making even the most experienced engineers scratch their heads. But it wasn't the advanced technology that caught retired NASA engineer Bill Thompson's attention. It was something much simpler. "Hold on," Bill said, standing up from his chair. His weathered face bore the marks of 40 years working on rockets. "Can you show me the cooling system again?" The starborn engineer, who called himself Tech Lead Dan, adjusted the hologram. The cooling systems appeared, glowing blue in the dim room. "I think I see the problem," Bill said, walking through the hologram. "Your quantum drives might be beyond us, but these cooling pipes, they're just pipes. And they're clogged." Dan tilted his head. "Our automated systems tried to clear them, but the dark matter exposure changed the molecular structure of the blockage. Our nanobots can't process it." Bill laughed, a warm, friendly sound that filled the room. "Sometimes you don't need nanobots. Sometimes you just need a really good plumber." The next few hours turned into an unusual lesson in basic mechanics. The humans explained how they had been dealing with clogged pipes, frozen engines, and stuck machinery since the Industrial Revolution. While the Starborn had developed incredible technology, they had skipped over many of the basic problems humans had spent centuries solving. "Look," Bill said, sketching on a plain whiteboard. "If we modify a basic pressure washer with some of your materials, we could blast through those clogs. It's not elegant, but it'll work." The Starborn watched in fascination as the humans proposed solution after solution, each one simpler than the last. What the aliens had seen as a catastrophic system failure, humans saw as a series of basic mechanical problems that could be fixed with the right tools and enough determination. "Our mining ships use similar principles to clear asteroid debris," said Maria, an engineer from Chile's space program. "We could adapt those systems to work on a larger scale." The breakthrough came when young engineer Tim Peters noticed something in the engine schematics. These quantum drive components, they're not actually broken. They just can't connect to each other because of all the mechanical failures around them. It's like having a perfect computer that you can't use because someone spilled coffee on the keyboard. The room buzzed with renewed energy. Suddenly, what had seemed like an impossible task became a series of challenging but solvable problems. The humans might not understand quantum physics, but they knew machines, and at their core, even the most advanced alien ships were still machines. Bill took charge of organizing the repair strategy. "We'll need teams," he said, marking sections on a large map of the stranded fleet. "Each ship has similar problems. We can't fix their quantum technology, but we can fix everything around it. Once we get the basic systems working again, their advanced technology should come back online on its own." The Starborn observers spoke quietly among themselves, clearly impressed by the humans' practical approach. What their advanced automation had seen as an unsolvable crisis, humans saw as a challenge to overcome with basic tools and determination. Commander Wilson, watching from the back of the room, smiled as he saw the aliens' reactions. Humans might not have quantum drives or nanotechnology, but they had something just as valuable: centuries of experience in fixing things that broke. "We'll need to modify pressure suits for spacewalks," Bill continued, now fully in his element. "Get machine shops working on custom tools. And someone find me the best pipe fitters on Earth. We're going to need them." As the meeting wound down, Tech Lead Dan approached Bill. "We did not expect this approach," he admitted. "Our species has relied on automation for so long, we forgot the value of direct intervention." Bill patted the alien's shoulder, surprising both of them with a casual gesture. "Sometimes the old ways are the best ways. Now, let's go save your fleet. One pipe at a time." The room cleared slowly, filled with a new sense of purpose. Earth's greatest engineering challenge wasn't going to be solved with advanced technology, but with wrenches, determination, and good old-fashioned human ingenuity. The launch of Operation Starlight marked the largest space mission in human history. 50 ships from various space agencies around the world lifted off in careful sequence, carrying tools, spare parts, and the bravest engineers Earth had to offer. The ships themselves were a testament to human adaptability. Most were converted cargo vessels, hastily retrofitted with new equipment and extra life support systems. They weren't pretty, but they were sturdy and reliable, exactly what was needed for the dangerous mission ahead. Captain Mike Ryan stood at the command deck of the lead ship, Hope's Pioneer, watching Earth shrink behind them. His vessel carried the main engineering team, including Bill Thompson, who had become the unofficial leader of the human repair effort. "Looking a bit rough out there," Mike said, noting the scattered formation of their makeshift fleet. These ships and crews had never worked together before, but they were learning quickly. The first crisis struck 3 days into their journey. A cluster of micrometeors, too small for radar but moving at incredible speeds, tore through the hulls of 3 ships in the fleet. Warning alarms blared across all channels as the damaged vessels began losing pressure. "Get me visual on those ships," Mike ordered, and the screens lit up showing the damage. Crew members in the damaged ships were already sealing off sections and putting on emergency suits. Bill's voice came over the comm from the engineering deck. "Captain, let me take a team out there. We've got patch kits, and I've worked on worse holes in the space station." Mike hesitated for only a second before giving the go-ahead. Within minutes, repair teams were launching from several ships, proving that humans didn't need advanced alien technology to be brave. The teams worked in the void of space, their helmet lights illuminating the torn metal. Bill led his group with the confidence of decades of experience, directing them to apply emergency patches and temporary seals. "Just like fixing a leak in a submarine," Bill said over the comm, his voice calm despite the dangerous situation. "The principle's the same, just less water and more space." The starborn observers aboard Hope's Pioneer watched in amazement as the humans efficiently dealt with a crisis that their automated systems would have spent days analyzing. Within hours, all 3 damaged ships were patched and ready to continue. That first success proved crucial when they finally reached the stranded alien fleet. The sight was overwhelming. Hundreds of massive ships clustered together, their sleek forms dark against the stars. Many of the vessels were as large as cities, their normal silver glow dimmed by power failures. The human fleet split into teams, each assigned to different sections of the starborn fleet. Bill's team approached one of the largest ships, which the starborn had designated as their test case. "Remember," Bill's voice came over the general channel, "we're not here to understand everything. We're here to get these ships moving again. Focus on what you know: pipes, pumps, wiring, and basic mechanics. Let the aliens worry about the quantum stuff." The first docking was tense. Human ships, built with technology centuries behind the starborn, had to connect with the alien vessels using specially designed adapters. It wasn't elegant, but like everything humans did, it worked. As engineering teams began boarding the alien ships, they found conditions worse than expected. Many systems had completely failed, life support was running on backups, and thousands of starborn families were living in increasingly difficult conditions. But where others might have seen hopeless chaos, the human engineers saw challenges to overcome. They broke into smaller teams, tackling problems one by one, using tools that would have looked primitive to the starborn, but proved surprisingly effective. By the end of the first day, Bill's team had already restored basic power to several sections of their target ship. They worked tirelessly, using simple solutions that the starborn's advanced automation had never considered. "It's not pretty," Bill said, looking at their rough but effective repairs, "but it's holding. Sometimes that's all you need." As the humans settled into their work, a new message spread through the fleet. Another ship had reported strange readings on their long-range sensors. Something was coming. something that suggested their problems might be more than just mechanical. But for now, the engineers focused on their tasks. They had ships to fix, people to save, and they were going to do it the human way, one problem at a time. The warning came during a routine repair operation. Bill and his team were fixing coolant pipes on one of the larger starborne ships when the fleet's remaining sensors detected multiple objects approaching at high speed. "This isn't a natural phenomenon," Tech Lead Dan said, his silver skin paling even further as he studied the readings. "These are ships, warships. The Dark Star Empire has found us." Captain Mike's voice crackled over the comm system. "All repair teams, return to your ships immediately. This is not a drill." As the human engineers scrambled back to their vessels, the Starborn revealed the full truth. The dark matter field that had disabled their fleet hadn't been an accident. It was a trap set by their ancient enemies, the Dark Star Empire, who had been hunting the Starborn refugees across the galaxy. "They expected us to die slowly, stranded in space," Dan explained as they watched the enemy ships approach on the long-range scanners. "They never expected us to find help." The human ships might have been primitive compared to both the Starborn and Dark Star vessels, but they had one advantage. They were small and hard to detect. While the massive enemy ships focused their scans on the Starborn fleet, the human vessels could move almost invisibly between them. Commander Wilson's voice came through on all channels. "This is what we're going to do. Our ships will act as a screen. We're smaller and more maneuverable. We can keep their attention while repair teams continue their work on the Starborn ships." "That's suicide," Dan protested. "Your vessels have no defense against their weapons." "No," Commander Wilson replied calmly. "That's strategy. We don't need to win. We just need to buy time." The battle that followed would be remembered in both human and Starborn history. The human ships darted between the massive Dark Star vessels like mosquitoes around elephants. They couldn't do much damage, but they could certainly be annoying. Bill and his engineering team used the distraction to work faster than ever. "The best defense is getting these ships running again," he said as his team raced to repair critical systems. "We've got people counting on us." The Dark Star ships fired their advanced weapons, expecting to quickly destroy the primitive human vessels, but they hadn't counted on human pilots' ability to think creatively. The small Earth ships used debris and damaged sections of the Starborn fleet as cover, making themselves nearly impossible to hit. "They fight like they repair things," Dan observed, watching the human ship dodge another attack. "Not with power, but with cleverness." The battle reached its peak when 3 Dark Star ships cornered the Hope's Pioneer. Just as they were about to fire, Bill's team finished their repairs on one of the Starborn's defensive systems. The energy shield snapped on just in time, protecting both the human ship and the refugee vessel behind it. "See," Bill said, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Sometimes timing is everything." The Dark Star Empire had expected to find a helpless refugee fleet, slowly dying in space. Instead, they found their prey being rescued by a species that refused to give up, using methods their advanced tactical computers couldn't predict. As more Starborn systems came back online, thanks to the continuous work of human repair teams, the tide of battle began to turn. The Dark Star ships, realizing they had lost their advantage, began to retreat. "They're running," Captain Mike announced, his voice tired but proud. "Looks like they don't like fair fights." In the aftermath, as human and Starborn crews assessed the damage, Tech Lead Dan approached Commander Wilson. "We had forgotten something important," he said. "Technology is not always the answer. Sometimes the strongest weapon is the will to protect others." The humans had lost 3 ships in the battle, but not a single life. Their pilots had proven that creativity and determination could overcome superior technology. More importantly, they had shown the galaxy that humanity wasn't just capable of fixing broken ships. They could fight for what was right. As the teams returned to their repair work, there was a new sense of urgency. The Dark Star Empire would return, probably with a larger fleet. But next time, Thanks to human ingenuity and determination, the Starborn would be ready. Bill gathered his engineers for their next shift. "Well," he said with a grim smile, "at least now we know why we need to hurry." After the battle with the Dark Star Empire, time became their greatest enemy. The repair teams worked around the clock, knowing that a larger enemy fleet could arrive at any moment. But it was during a late-night repair session that Bill Thompson had an idea that would change everything. He stood in the main engineering bay of the Starborn command ship, surrounded by both human and alien engineers. A holographic displays showed the status of all 300 ships in the refugee fleet, most of them still dead in space. "We're thinking about this all wrong," Bill said, walking through the hologram. "We've been trying to fix each ship completely, one at a time. But what if we did it differently?" The room fell silent as Bill explained his plan. Instead of fully repairing each ship, they would make thousands of small fixes across the entire fleet. Every ship would get just enough repairs to move and fight. "It's like jumping a car battery," he explained to the confused Starborn. "We don't need to fix everything. We just need to get them running. Once they're moving, their own systems can finish the job." Tech lead Dan studied the plan. "This is unorthodox. Our repair protocols always call for complete system restoration." "Well," Bill smiled, "humans aren't very good at following protocols, but we're excellent at getting things moving." The new plan required every human engineer to train small teams of Starborn in basic repair techniques. What the aliens lacked in practical experience, they made up for in quick learning and perfect memory. Maria, the Chilean engineer, developed a simple system she called the Basics Kit, a collection of human tools modified with Starborn materials. These kits could fix most of the common problems they'd found across the fleet. "Think of it like a first aid kit for spaceships," she explained to her Starborn students. "Sometimes a bandage is all you need to keep going." The work was hard and dangerous. Engineers had to spacewalk between ships, carrying their tools and materials. Every repair was a race against time, trying to fix critical systems before their suit oxygen ran low. Young Tim Peters discovered that the Starborn's quantum technology responded to basic electrical jumpstarts. "It's like their advanced systems just need a wake-up call," he explained. "A bit of human-style power gets them going, then they can maintain themselves." The Starborn watched in amazement as their fleet slowly came back to life, not with the perfect precision they were used to, but with a patchwork of repairs that somehow worked together. Human engineers called it getting it done with duct tape and prayers, though they were using materials far more advanced than duct tape. 1 week into the new plan, they had restored basic power to over half the fleet. Ships that had been dark for months lit up with emergency power, their essential systems humming back to life. "It's not pretty," Bill admitted, looking at the makeshift repairs covering one ship's hull. "But it's working. Sometimes that's better than perfect." The breakthrough came when they reached the fleet's main power distribution hub. The human engineers, led by Bill, saw that the quantum power network was like a giant circuit board. Instead of trying to understand the quantum mechanics, they treated it like a massive electrical system. "Power is power," Bill told his team. "Whether it's quantum or electrical, it still needs a path to flow. Let's give it that path." Using a combination of Starborn technology and human engineering principles, they created a network of power shunts that bypassed the damaged sections. It wasn't elegant, it wasn't permanent, but it would get the fleet moving. The moment they activated the network, ships across the fleet began powering up. Emergency lights turned into full power. Life support systems switched from backup to main control. Engines that had been silent for months began their warm-up sequences. Tech lead Dan stood with Bill, watching the fleet come back to life. "Our systems show these repairs should not work," he said, shaking his head in wonder. "Yet they do." Bill laughed. "That's the story of human engineering right there. It shouldn't work, but it does. Sometimes that's all you need." As the last ships powered up, a message came through from the fleet's long-range sensors. The Dark Star Empire was returning, just as they had feared. But this time, they wouldn't find a helpless refugee fleet. This time, they would find a fleet ready to fight back, powered by human ingenuity and starborn technology working together in ways neither species had imagined possible. The final battle with the Dark Star Empire lasted less than an hour. When their warships emerged from deep space, expecting to find a helpless refugee fleet, they instead faced something unprecedented, a fully operational starborn fleet backed by human ingenuity. Commander Wilson stood on the bridge of the Hope's Pioneer, watching as the starborn ships moved in perfect formation. The repairs might have been ugly by alien standards, but they worked. Every ship was powered, every weapon was online, and every crew was ready. "They're scanning us," Tech Lead Dan reported from his station. "They seem confused." "Well," Bill Thompson said with a smile, "I'd be confused too if I came to finish off a stranded fleet and found this instead." The Dark Star Empire had brought a massive fleet, 3 times larger than their first attack force. But they had made one crucial mistake. They had expected the same situation they had left behind. They weren't prepared for what human engineering had accomplished. The battle began with the Dark Star ships launching their first attack. But this time, instead of finding helpless targets, their weapons met fully powered shields. The starborn fleet, now restored to fighting condition, responded with overwhelming force. "Look at that," Captain Mike said proudly as the refugee fleet executed a perfect defensive maneuver. All those repair jobs holding together just fine. The Dark Star Empire's tactical computers couldn't understand what they were seeing. Their scans showed impossible repairs, systems working in ways that defied their understanding of technology. In their confusion, they'd made mistakes. "They're breaking formation," Dan announced. "Their attack pattern is becoming erratic." Commander Wilson nodded. "That's what happens when the impossible shows up. Your plans fall apart." The battle turned decisively when the human ships joined the fight. While the starborn vessels engaged the main enemy fleet, Earth's smaller ships darted between them, disrupting enemy formations and creating chaos in their ranks. Bill watched from the engineering deck as his repair work was put to the ultimate test. The makeshift power systems, the jury-rigged weapons, the patched-together shields, everything held together, working in ways that neither humans nor starborn had imagined possible. The Dark Star fleet began to retreat, but this time the starborn weren't content to let them go. With their ships fully operational, they pressed their advantage, driving their ancient enemy back into deep space. When the last enemy ship disappeared from their sensors, a cheer went up throughout the fleet. Human and starborn crews celebrated together, united in their victory. In the aftermath, the Starborn High Council called a meeting with Earth's representatives. The council chamber on their flagship was filled with both species as First Speaker Ben addressed the gathering. "We came to your solar system as refugees," he said, his voice carrying across the silent chamber. "We expected, at best, to find temporary shelter. Instead, we found something far more valuable. We found partners." Commander Wilson stood to respond. "Partners?" "Yes," Ben confirmed. "Our council has decided. If humanity agrees, we would like to stay. Not as refugees, but as allies. We have much to learn from each other." The decision was, in the end, an easy one. The Starborn had advanced technology that could help humanity reach the stars. And humanity, as they had proved, had practical knowledge and creativity that the Starborn desperately needed. 1 month later, at a ceremony marking the official alliance between Earth and the Starborn, Bill Thompson stood with Tech Lead Dan, watching ships from both species working together to establish a permanent base in Earth's orbit. "You know what still amazes me," Dan said, gesturing at the construction. "Your species took our most advanced technology and fixed it with what we considered primitive tools. You didn't even understand how most of it worked." Bill laughed. "Understanding everything isn't always necessary. Sometimes you just need to know enough to get the job done." As the ceremony concluded, Commander Wilson made one final address. Today marks humanity's first step into a larger universe. We've proved that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our knowledge. It's our ability to face any challenge and find a way through. Together with our new allies, there's no limit to what we can achieve. The stars seemed brighter that night as human and starborn ships patrolled the solar system together. Humanity had been called to save a stranded alien fleet, but in doing so, they had found their place among the stars. And somewhere out there, the Dark Star Empire had learned a valuable lesson. Never underestimate a species that can fix quantum drives with the equivalent of duct tape and determination.